Imagine you encounter a very eccentric, very rich person who wants to play a game with you. In this game, you're going to flip 2 coins, and if the coins land heads, heads, both heads, you lose, and if they land in any other combination, you win. Let's say that they're willing to wager on the outcome of this game as well, and you get to name the stakes. So if you said, I want to play for $20, and you flip the coins and you get heads, tails, then you make a profit of $20. Or if you said, I want to play for $10, you flip the coins and you got heads, heads, then you lose and you walk away $10 poorer. The integrity of this game is not in question. There's no tricks here. There's no doubt about whether the game is actually what you think it is. The odds are exactly what you think they are. And whoever loses really, really will have to honor the bet. You can only play once. There's no repeating it. So how much would you play for? Actually say the number in your head. How much would you put down? How much would you wager in this one-off game? And I'm almost certain the number you said is wrong. Different people watching this video will give different kinds of wrong answers, but the most common, most wrong answer you can give here is 0. I would bet nothing. If you don't want to gamble because of a religious taboo, I mean, okay, fine. But for everyone who said, I don't want to play because I don't like taking risks, that's fundamentally, objectively incorrect. A person who tries to claim, I don't take risks, is just like a fish that doesn't know what water is. It's kind of like, you might say, oh, I don't follow a diet, but regardless of whether you say that, every day you're making decisions about what to eat. Or someone might say, I want the YouTube algorithm to have no agenda, but at the same time, at the end of the day, there has to be some mechanism for deciding what video to put in front of you. Or, the classic, I don't speak with an accent, I just talk normally. It's like, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, you're already following a policy of financial risk-taking. If you're watching this video, you probably have a retirement account that's invested in equities whose value fluctuates. Or you might own real estate and you don't know for certain what the value of your house is going to be 10 years from now. Even the cash in our wallet is changing in value depending on foreign exchange rates. And just in general, in life, unexpected things happen to us. You could stumble across an amazing career opportunity tomorrow, or you could unexpectedly get fired. You don't know for certain. And because we can't predict the future with perfect, absolute, 100% foresight, effectively every time you ever make a decision, you are accepting some level of risk. You are taking a calculated gamble. There's no point pretending like you don't take risk when the nature of the world we live in forces us to take risk with every single choice we ever make. I've got a friend I used to work with at Canva. I remember arguing with him about this, double coin toss game. He said he wouldn't want to bet even $10, and that's despite him owning property in Sydney and equity in Canva. And both of those investments had valuations that would go up or down by hundreds of thousands of dollars plausibly. And yet he still couldn't stomach the $10 risk on this gamble. This is not a valid difference of opinion that we have. This is not a question of, oh, different people have different preferences and different attitudes. No, his attitude is mathematically illegitimate. If you feel the way he does, you are objectively wrong and you need to change your mind. So now that we've established that we have to put something down on this bet, the question then becomes, well, how much? A good principled way to answer this question is to frame it as, well, after I make my bet, either I'm going to be richer than I am now, or I'm going to be poorer than I am now. I can think about how good my life will be in the outcome where I win the game, and also how good my life will be in the case where I lose the game. And since I know how likely each outcome is, I can weigh them against each other and figure out, well, how well off am I going to be on average? And so for every size of bet I could choose, whether I choose to bet $1 or $10 or $1,000, I can calculate this average happiness if I make that bet. And if I look for the size of bet that maximizes this average happiness, that tells me how much to put down on the game. This is called expected utility maximization, and it might seem like an arbitrary construction, but it's not arbitrary. There's a result called the von Neumann-Morgenstern theorem, which basically shows that as long as you don't have insane preferences, if your preferences satisfy some pretty basic axioms that almost anyone agrees we should follow, the best way for you to act, the best way for you to make decisions is to do this expected utility calculation. So in order to decide how much money to bet in this game, we just have to define our utility function, as in, for each amount of money we might end up with, how happy will we be? So we need to create some curve here that says, oh, if I have this much money, then I will be this happy. And if I have this much money, I'll be this happy. The exact shape of this curve is going to be different for every individual person, but there's a few things we can say about its general shape. One is that it's always better to have more money than less money. So as we move to the right, which means more money, we should also be moving up, which means more happy. So the curve should have some upward sloping shape. Another thing we can say about it is the more money you have, the less impact an additional dollar is going to make in your life. So if there's somebody living on $40,000 a year and you give them an extra $10,000, that might make a huge difference to their standard of living. Whereas if somebody was already spending $1 million a year and you give them $10,000, it's going to help them somewhat, but nowhere near as much. So the more money you have, the flatter the curve should be. It should have a sort of lower impact of a marginal dollar as we move to the right. So whenever we're thinking about functions that are increasing with diminishing returns, the first one that jumps into mind is the log. Now, the log isn't the only choice of utility function you could have. There's an infinitely many coherent choices here, but the log is a good place to sort of begin the analysis from. It has some somewhat intuitive implications. Saying that you have log utility is basically saying you get the same incremental boost in happiness for every doubling of your wealth. So the amount that your life gets better when you go from living off $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year is the same as going from $100,000 to $200,000 a year is the same as going from $200,000 to $400,000. Even if your individual utility function is not going to be exactly logarithmic, hopefully this is close enough to your true preferences for you to be somewhat interested in the implications of trying to maximize log utility. Choosing the size of your bets in order to maximize the expected value of the log of your wealth is also known as the Kelly Criterion. To figure out how much the Kelly Criterion says you should bet in this 2 coin flip game, you first got to count up how much money do you currently have right now in total, as in if you sold everything you own of value, exit all your investments, pay your debts, and then put it all in one big pile of money, how much money is that you have in the world right now? Let's call that W for wealth. And then you're going to bet some fraction F of your total wealth on the outcome of this 2 coin flip game. So if W was 100,000 and F was 0.2, that means you had $100,000 of total wealth and you're going to bet 20% of it, or $20,000 on the outcome of this game. So in the cases where we get lucky and we win the game, our wealth is going to become our wealth before we played times 1 plus the fraction that we bet. For instance, if we started with $200,000 and we wanted to put 10% of it on the line, if we win, we're going to walk away with $220,000. In a similar way, if we lose, we're going to end up with W times 1 minus F. Our probability of winning and losing is pretty easy to see. The chance of getting 2 heads is 1 in 4. The chance of not getting 2 heads is 3 in 4. So to find our expected utility, we just times the probability that we win times our utility if we win, where remember our utility is just the log of our wealth. We add that to the chance we lose plus our utility in the world where we lose. We can massage this equation a little bit because you can see we've got the log of a product, which is the sum of the logs. And then we expand these brackets out, and then we look at this equation here. If we're trying to find the amount to bet to maximize this equation, this term over here, this log of our original wealth, it doesn't change when our betting fraction changes. So if we're looking for the value of F that maximizes this term's just irrelevant. So all we have to do is think about finding the betting fraction that gives us the maximum of this equation here. You can find this maximum analytically if you want to, but I've just graphed it here in Desmos. And here we see, according to the Kelly Criterion, if you get to play this double coin flip bet, the amount that you should wager is 0.5 times your entire net worth. You should literally take half of everything you own and bet that on this game. Now, I'm sure the suggestion that you should take half of everything you have and bet it on this coin flip game strikes you as insane, like absurdly aggressive. And the Kelly Criterion in general is regarded as an aggressive strategy. But this is a bit paradoxical because the underlying assumptions we use to get to this answer are in many ways overly conservative. What are we actually saying when we claim our utility is the log of the amount of money we end up with? Well, as the amount of money goes to 0, the log goes to negative infinity. So we're saying that having no money would be worse than death, would be like being tortured for all of eternity. It would be negative infinity utility. And I'm pretty sure for almost anyone watching this video, going bankrupt would suck, but it wouldn't be that bad. And when we try to plug in our total wealth W into this equation, we're always leaving out 2 incredibly important components. The first is, for almost everyone watching this video, you're going to have some kind of safety net, whether that's family who'll take care of you when you fall on hard times or government welfare programs. And the second component is, unless you're past retirement age, you still have a lot of human capital and future earnings you haven't realized yet, which are kind of like wealth that you can't bet right now. Somebody in their teens or 20s might have less than $10,000 to their name, but literally millions of dollars of unrealized future earnings to look forward to. It's intuitive, right, that a recently minted doctor with a tiny bit of medical school debt is not really poor, and they definitely shouldn't be considered as having infinitely negative utility. So for the vast majority of people watching for whom the peak of your career is still in the future, and who have a safety net to fall back on, you'd have to be an absolute gutless chicken shit to only bet 50% of your wealth on this game. If you rerun the same analysis we did before, but also say that, well, I've got 20% of my current wealth in expected future earnings coming down the pipeline, now the betting fraction goes up to 60%. Or if a majority of your earnings are still in the future, it tells you to go all in, everything you have, just get as much money as you possibly can into this game. So yeah, the Kelly Criterion is for cowards. Any reasonable analysis shows you should be far more risk-seeking than it implies. But please don't go off and gamble all your money just yet. There's a very important caveat to what I said that's coming in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.